Hello, welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host Rob, and this is the Age of Sigmar Stat Center, recorded live on Twitch every Monday. If you would like to join us, you can join these wonderful people in the chat, as you can see all here. We're going to be looking at, I think, 4 or 5 event results from around the world today. We got a big team tournament that happened in Australia. We had a Masters event in Texas, and we had some other little events dotted around all over, which is really cool. We're also going to be taking a look at some of the stats. Our stats dashboard has been updated on thehonestwargamer.com if you would like to go and check it out. I'll include the link in the show notes if you listen to it as a podcast. Stay hydrated. If you are watching it on YouTube, then please do like and subscribe and go click all of the show notes, which is located just below me here. So go do that, and that will take you to the stats and the stats dashboard and all of that. I'm excited to find out what's happening in the event results. I don't know what could happen. It could be anything. I very much doubt, though, I'll see any, Fumeroid Crushers or Underguts armies doing well, because that would just make it super weird. The very last thing I expect to see is Fiends of Slaanesh, so I hope none of that comes up. But as usual, can't wait to get into these. Thanks to everyone for sending us the info, and thanks for Twitch for joining me live. So, the stats are updated, and not only do we know loads about the army faction rankings and also the win rates and meta representation and other stuff, we also know who the best performing players of this GHB are. So here are the player stat results. You can find them all on thehonestwargamer.com, and you can find them on the stats tab. You can also follow the T-Sports Stat Center Twitter, soon to be a T-Sports Stat Center TikTok, if Twitter implodes. But more on that later. Here are the player event results. So these are the best performing players. Does this mean they're the best players in the world? Of course not. But it means they're the best performing players of this GHB, and probably people who understand their armies and these GHBs better than everyone else. We take the top 6 event results from these players and we put them in the stats. So, in order, by the way, America dominating the stats. Absolutely dominating. We're going to look at the top 16 players, and the reason we're going to talk about the top 16 players is last year we invited the top 16 players from the TSN rankings, and we asked them to fly over to England and play in a tournament, which was cool, and we did that. Ronja won that from Sweden, and then we also did the same for the UK, because obviously we're based in the UK. If you run one of those local metas, like Australia or Sweden, you could use these rankings to run your own top 16, which is super cool. So, and Swaggy in the chat, because obviously I'm doing this live on Twitch, has said the Americans are the best, in his opinion, but obviously feel free to disagree with that at some point if you'd like to. So, top 16 in the world at the moment are Mr. Jeremy Vissier, captain of Team America, and leading from the front. He's got 28 wins out of 30 games with only 2 losses. He's right at the top there. Now, he's done it with a variety of different armies as well. He did it with KO, Fleshy. Of course, I'm pretty certain. Definitely have done it with Fire Slayers as well. Jeremy has to be one of the... I did an interview with Jeremy recently, which I'm posting online in the next month or so. But Jeremy has got an absolutely razor-sharp mind, both for the game and just generally for gaming in of itself. So, and he's been addicted to it since he was a kid. So Jeremy doing really, really well there. Gavin, our big man down from Texas, lovely fella, in second place. So again, another member of Team America. Tom Guan, the man, the myth, the legend, the silent killer, silent violence, in third place. Emma Mangles, the meme queen herself, in fourth place. Lovely to see her up there. Freddie Leggett. Now, Freddie, 5th in the world. This is absolutely phenomenal stuff for Freddie. 25-5, doing really well. Freddie's a newer person, member of Team Lit. He's played in the past couple of years, but has been dominating. He's been playing all sorts of lists. Very recently, 2-5-0s with Beast House with Cygors, if you remember, in there. By the way, just to go through it, Gavin at the top playing a variety of different lists, including Squig, Seraphon, all sorts of stuff. I think I also saw him play Daughters of Cain recently. Tom Guan playing a variety of lists as well, Bone Splitters. So we're seeing the top 3 players at least, but several of these players in this list have playing multiple different armies, which has been really good. Freddie Leggett doing great, loads of different lists. Mr. Owen Jackson with the Reign of Stars. He's 24-6. Okay, he's done really well recently. He's taken a bunch of different memes. He was playing some Sylvaneth, switched up to the Reign of Stars list, got his first 5-0 the other day. Massive congratulations to him. Matt Beasley, I'm pretty certain is our Nurgle player. But Matt, it's just not catching with me right now. But loads of love to you. Matt doing really well. Christopher Schelling, also the same. But I'm pretty certain he's a Midwestern player If that offends you, I'm sorry, but he's also US based. Matt Beasley is US based, so we've only got 2 UK players at the minute, Freddie and Owen, helping keep the UK in it. Otherwise, it is a American stomp fest. Anthony Trentinelli in 9th place, a variety of different lists. Also, one of them, 5-0 Summer Slaughter with Sanesh. That's Anthony Trentinelli, based in the US as well. Baz Jr., there we go, in 10th place, made it into the top 10. He's UK based, and again, one of the newer players around the scene, just been playing loads of events. Super happy for him. Alexander Gonzalez, American based. Phil Marshall. Now, Phil has got an event result to come in. He's the only player so far with only 5 event results. Oh no, Anthony Trentinelli as well. Also, only 5 event results in. But Phil's owed 150 points, which would put him up into 3rd place. That's UK. Put him as top UK at the moment. Mr. Adam Mumford. Oh, no, hold on. Steve from Partners at War, Steve Patek, rocking there with in 13th place, US-based. Adam Mumford, our UK cockmaster, in 14th place. Jiwan Noah Singh, our American Iron Jaws love and total babe, in 15th place. And then Hazel Moon, again UK based, with her Idneth Deepkin in 16th. Now, just outside of that, you've got Matt the Nooge in 17th. Carl Ong from Canada, those two battling it out. Joe Cryer from is he Midwest? Basically he is. And then Kieran Alander. So those guys just vying for the top spot and trying to get in there though. So there we go. And yeah, so that's everything in the world stats. The stats, as always, are brought to you by Warhammer Rob, not me. Yeah, different, better Rob, and also Ziggy. Both those two people. Warhammer Rob does all the inputting, and Ziggy makes it into this format here that you can go and click in the links. If you're watching this as a YouTube video, if you listen to it as a podcast, then you can click those links and you can go find those resources. You can look at them yourself. They're all free. Go check them out and go look at them. Okay, the meta representation. This is how many of an army attend an event. 2-day events, don't forget. Okay, so Stormcast Eternals, easily the most popular. Why? I hear you cry. They have the most boring narrative in the universe. These are the dry white toast of wargaming. Now, that's fair, but they have dragons. And as we know, you don't even need particularly write good scripts and just put dragons in your show, and it's going to do really well. Okay, dragons are like the secret sauce. Maybe when they wrote the myth of dragons sitting atop gold, they just meant when you do something with dragons, it makes gold. And there we go. Stormcast Eternals, 9%. Also, all the new people play it. They're like, hello, do you want to play Age of Sigmar? And they're like, yeah, I do, thank you. And they're like, why don't you collect some Stormcast? And then loads of people will be like, they're the easiest army to play. And they are easy because they don't really have any synergy in there. Just whatever. They're just war scrolls, basically, as an army. With a billion characters that are all useless. So then Sylvaneth next, most popular army, 7.4%. This is of no surprise to me. No surprise to me. This is because everyone loves a tree. We've been told a lot recently to go out and touch grass. And as wargamers, we don't. We generally don't go out and touch grass. And instead, we bring the grass inside and we play with our Sylvaneth armies. Don't go outside and touch the grass, bring the grass in. Also, they're a fun army. They've got great minis. They've got a great narrative. They're tree people. Everyone loves Ents. All of that's great. Thank you very much to Demon666 for donating £5 to the Soup Fund. Let's go. Soup, soup, soup. Let's go. Yeah, we also don't tend to touch grass because tufts are expensive. But thank you for Demon for that. Some people have too much grass. That's also true, right? They're also easy to slap chop. There's loads of good reasons. Yeah. So yeah, the Sylvaneth army is super popular because it's an easy army to put together and it's got a cool narrative. Nighthorn all came in the starter box for 2nd edition. There was loads of them out there, and then there's been this magazine series called Part Works, not available in some countries, obviously, but that's where you got loads of Sylvaneth for cheap or free, or you could just go find them at car boot sales. Car boot sale is what we call like a garage sale if you're US based, and so there's just loads of them, and they literally cost pennies. So Nighthorn, and they're cool. They're ghosts. Spooky ghosts. Ghost the film was very popular. Casper the Friendly Ghost is really popular. Just ghosts are generally... Ghost hunting is a thing, I think. Ghosts obviously aren't real. But there we go. But that doesn't stop you from collecting them. So there they are. Magakin and Nurgle, 5.8%. Nurgle's a popular faction. It's one of the Chaos Gods that's like pretty common. Also, Games Workshop has like an inherent need to make Nurgle stuff strong in Age of Sigmar. Not really sure why. They always make Khorne stuff fighty, but not as fighty as other stuff. They always make Tzeentch like, they're like, this is complicated, but it's not really complicated at all. And then they make Lumineth, which is like, what the hell? But Magakin, super cool theme, great miniatures. Everyone loves, like, it's great to paint. There's loads of like pus and stuff. They're just great minis, right? So really fun, Magakin Nurgle, and also incredibly strong. Just before the Battle Scroll update, one of, if not the best army in the game. Super strong, making Nurgle up there. Daughters of Khaine, 5.5%. Gone are the days when they represented only about 2% of the meta. They're now at a solid 5.5% of the meta. One of the most popular armies around. They're strong, they're powerful, they've got a great theme. They're just super popular. Skaven, 5.5%, which is pretty impressive. Everyone is sat on a Skaven army. They are all over the place. Loads of people got Skaven from Warhammer Fantasy Battle days. They're pretty easy to get into as well. You just got to paint up like a couple of Vermin Lords, which are cool minis, some Storm Fiends, and you're most of the way there, which is nice. Skaven have got a great theme as well. They're rat men. Like, who doesn't love that, right? And then you kind of start to go down as well. You've got Seraphon, one of the most popular and most powerful armies in the game. Not only are they cool because they're dinosaurs, they're also super strong. So that's really great. So you love to see that. You also get a Toad who's a magician. So that's great. And then Soulblight Gravelords, Ironjaws, Deepkins, Sons of Behemoth. Now this is all, don't forget, this has all been based off the past 4 months of this GHB. 5 months of this GHB from 106 tournaments. That's going to change significantly. You're going to see those Sons of Behemoth numbers skyrocket. You're going to see Ogres, who are currently at 2.4% of the meta, skyrocket and go up. And we're also going to see Slaves to Darkness. I wouldn't be surprised if Slaves to Darkness are maybe the second most popular faction in the game. In 6 months. 6 months to 8 months, when people have produced enough of the army, when they've built them and they've painted them, I think they're going to be. It's going to be a slow burn, but I think they'll be the most popular army in the game, second most popular army in the game. But we'll see. We'll see what everyone else thinks. I don't think we'll ever see. Stormcast Eternals have 2 times not been the most popular. They were once beat out by Gargants, and they were once beat out by oh god, what are they called? But Legion of Nagash. So this is over the past 4 or 5 years I've been doing the stats. But Stormcast are almost always one of the most popular armies to play. Next bit of stat we're going to look at is the positive win rate potential. So the PWP. PWP. Do that in front of your friends and people think you're very cool. So the positive win rate potential is how likely or how often an army had a positive win rate potential of a 3-2 or more. Okay? When this is too high, it becomes a problem. Like when it's very high. At one point we had Gargants at like 80%. This meant you could literally roll your face on dice, put the dice in your mouth, spit them out, and use a Ouija board to determine what you wanted to do with your miniatures, and you probably were going to have a positive win rate potential. That's dropped down a little bit, but some armies are still pretty high. And some armies don't even have the chance of getting near there. So just talking about the really high ones, Bone Splitters and Beasts of Chaos, 69 and 67% win rate, respectively. Sons of Behemoth are still up there at 63%. Now, this is one of those really, really interesting things that I talked about already. Sons of Behemoth are like sub 55% as a win rate, but their positive win rate potential is already high. So that means that they don't necessarily always hit that 5-0 all the time. But you can so regularly guarantee going 3-2 or higher with Gargants that it's like the new starter army. If you want one of your friends to feel like they can do okay, you paint them up 4 big Gargants, and you just let them just walk forward onto objectives, and they'll win half or more of their games, right? So they should be happy with that. And is something to watch out for. Seraphon at 61%. So sure, their win rate isn't as high, but it's still very regularly in the positive win rate potential. And then Disciples of Tzeentch and Daughters of Khaine also. Disciples of Tzeentch players, where the meta representation was very low, is normally played by people who really understand how powerful that faction is. So that's something to be conscious of. Daughters of Khaine, similar. Daughters of Khaine, a more popular army, and they just have like some auto win conditions that are so effective. They pose some problems which other people can't really deal with, and then everyone else is pretty much in the middle. And then we get to the I'll try and say this politely, the shitters. Okay, specifically these are armies where you're really going to struggle to go 3-2 or have a positive win rate potential, and you've got Cruel Boys at 28%, Bone Reapers 29%, Gits at 31%, more Tribes at 32%, although that's going to change, and then Heathen Knights of Slaanesh at 38%. It's the Cruel Boys positive win rate potential, which is the real shocking element. So it's below 30%. So your opportunity to go 3-2 or higher, it's only happened 28% of the time in those Cruel Boys plays. And this is people who are trying their hardest to get Cruel Boys working and off the ground. So, like, if you were just getting into Age of Sigmar, wanted to play, armies I'd avoid would be Cruel Boys, Bone Reapers, Gits, and Heathen Knights of Slaanesh. I would definitely invest in Ogres right now, as they're gonna go up significantly, in my opinion. So those are the armies to avoid. And if you're new and you want to get an army that's going to continue to do well, I would pick up Sons of Behemoth if you want to do super well, because they're going to continue to just be great all the time. And the reason is, it's important. Why? They're very good on the primary. There are two ways that you score points in Age of Sigmar. There's also grand strategies, but they should be deleted from the game, but we'll ignore them. You hold objectives by moving on to the objectives. You then also score battle tactics, which you do in each turn. So you can either be strong on the primary, strong on the secondary, or strong on both. Ogres are strong on... not ogres, sorry. Sons of Behemoth are strong on both, but they're very much strong on the primary. They'll be even stronger on the primary next edition, or in January when we get the new GHB, because Unmatched Conquerors will go away. So they're better. Like, the stonks on Gargants is actually up, because their dominance on primary is going to increase. So I would expect their win rate to actually go up, not go down in the new GHP. So very much looking forward to that. Depends on battle tactics, but they've got some good ones for themselves, so they're fine. So anyway, yeah, that's the positive win rate potential. Okay, an interesting bit from the stats is the drops and first turn choice stats. Okay, so what does this mean? When you build an army in Age of Sigmar, you take battalions, different battalions. One of them, most importantly, is called a battle regiment. If you have a battle regiment, it means that if you have all of your army in the battle regiment, you deploy it in one go, which is a one drop. If you have a battle regiment, or if you have two battle regiments and all the requirements for that, and you drop them both down, one, then two, because you alternate deployments, then that's a 2-drop. Up until the point where you have no battle regiments, and you just have a billion Gits, and you've got a 17-drop list, or something to that regard. Okay? So having your drop count lower means you get the choice to go first versus your opponent. So in this GHB, 11%, well, nearly 12% of the lists were 1-drop lists, with 2, 3, or 4-drop lists being 8% or 10% for a 4-drop list, basically. So I worked it out just literally minutes ago. 37% of the lists are 4 drops or less, with 12% being on 1-drop specifically. It's quite interesting. This has changed a lot since the last GHB. The last GHB, we had none of the new core battalion. Oh, we did have core battalions. In the last one, we had Hunters in the Heartlands and also like a monster one, which I forget right now. In that version, though, 21% of the lists were 1-drop and 13% were 2-drop. So already 35% were 2-drop or less, whereas now it's 37, which are 4-drop or less. So there's been some significant changes in what battalions are being taken, and there's a load of reasons for this. Specifically, there are different artifacts or army builds. Maybe your army doesn't fit into a 1-drop. Maybe one of your armies works better if it has more artifacts. Maybe your army just works better if it just has lots of drops. There's loads of reasons why. It's still interesting info, particularly good for team formats, particularly good if you want to build a list that you're really not sure exactly how, I really want control on the first turn because I'd like to alpha strike my opponent, or I would like to stop it so that I get alphaed. Then you're going to need to know this information, and I think it's fairly relevant. But it's lower than it was, but you're still in an interesting place. If you have a 2-drop list, 78% of the time, you're going to get the choice to go first, with 8% being a roll-off. It's pretty good. That's pretty good on a 2-drop. That's a double battle reg. The one where I think it's most interesting is a 3-drop. 68% of the time, you're going to get the choice to go first. That's when you've done a battle reg, and you've done bounty hunters or unmatched conquerors. So you've got the 1 or The 1 or 3 drop, basically, is kind of the big conversation at the moment, in my opinion. So, yeah, quite interesting this, and super worth looking at, especially if you're like designing your lists for competitive play. There's actually loads more stats to go through. There's tournament deep dives, there's T-whips, if you even know what a T-whip is, there's grid reports, there's how each army does in faction head-to-heads, there's the army's tournament performances, there's matchups, and loads more to go through, as well as deep dives, looking at which sub-factions are doing better than other sub-factions inside of a book. But I'm going to do all that in a longer and more like intense, in-depth video in the future, because I'd like to show list examples and other stuff. So that stuff will be included in there. As always, thank you to Rob and Ziggy for producing these stats. They're all free and available on the Wargamer.com. Also, thank you to all of the TOs all around the world who've helped get us this information, or players who've helped. You all know who you are if you've helped get the information to us so we can get some good and healthy stats. Stats that are so good, in fact, that they've caused Games Workshop to have to do their own, which has been really positive. There are some variations between the stats here and Games Workshop stats, but not significant enough that I'm going to hold their feet over the fire on that situation. But we're going to continue to do the stats to make sure, well, to keep them honest. Right? It's in the title. So that's good. Anyway, go check them out. There's some real information in there, some real good stuff. You'll learn a lot. You can ask loads of questions. You can. The good thing to do is also share them in your local community, because there's lots of people in your community who might not know about that information, and they might ask a bunch of questions. Why? And then it's really good for opening up a discourse about like what units do, how armies play, what those other things, and then your community and your local group will grow and get better at the game, which is always healthy for you as a group. So yeah, go check them out. Okay, a final bit on the stats. I know I just ended the stats in the last video bit, but I'm just going to quickly come back to this, because Ziggy's put something really fun together, where we're going to talk about the very sharp end of the stats, and it's something really worth talking about. We use meta representation a lot. I like positive win rate potential as well to look at some real problems or outliers in the game. But we've done, Ziggy has done a really interesting kind of breakdown here. And there's one bit that I'd really like to talk about. He talked about the overall win rates. 75% of factions are between 45 and 55%, which is good. Only 40% of factions, though, between 47.5 and 52.5. So if we were trying to get an even better, closer game, then there are only 40% of the factions fit in there. Now, the bit that's quite important is the tournament performance outcome ratio. This is where if you have an army that represents 10% of the meta, so Stormcast Eternals, for example, then you would expect that there are like their 5-0s to be 10%, because you'd be like, of all the 5-0s, 10% of those would be Stormcast Eternals. All the 4-1s, 10% of those would be Stormcast Eternals as well, because they're 10%. So they should be 10% of all of the other results along the line, if that makes sense. Super easy. If you had an army that was only 5%, you would expect it to only have 5% of all the total 5-0s. So you take all the 5-0s that we've got in our event results, and then you compare them to the meta representation, and then if they're equal, that's a 1. If you have more 5-0s than the meta representation, it starts going to purple or red or whatever the color it is. It starts going to bad news, and that's dangerous. Okay, so and to allow some variance between 0.8 and 1.2 for some variance. Okay, super easy, really simple. So if it's low, then the army's doing very bad, and if it's very high, the army is doing crazy. Okay, and that's where we're going to look at this next one. And I'll include a link to all this as well. So if we look at Stormcast Eternals, who are at the top, they represent 9.5% of the meta, and they're about 9% of the 5+ wins. So it's great. That's about bang on average. They're 9% of the 4+ wins, and they're 9% of the 3+ wins. They are perfect. Green, green, green. Okay, Sylvaneth are a great example. 7.5% of the meta. They are 7.3% of the 3+ wins, 7.5% of the 4+ wins, and then they really struggle to hit that 5-0 bracket, which is quite cool. But when we get into problem armies, Maggotkin of Nurgle and Daughters of Cain, they're a little bit above average in the 3+ win category. They're very above average, our control of 1 on a 4+ win ratio, right? But when you get to 5+ wins, they're 1.6. Yeah, so they're much higher. They're 9% of the 5-0 wins when they're only 6% of the meta. They aren't the scariest ones, though. You're like, what about Seraphon, Rob? They're 2.6. They have 13.9% of the 5-0s for only 5.4% of their meta representation. But they're not even. So they're 2.5 times higher win rates versus their meta representation. But that's where it gets even more crazy when you get to Beasts of Chaos. Beasts of Chaos are only 2.5% of the meta. So all the lists out there being run and played are only 2.5% of the meta. But they're 10% of the 5-0s. They have a 5 win ratio of 4.3. Like it's just absolutely nuts. Now, there's loads of stuff to say about how this works. Another good example would be if we go and look at the armies that are performing badly. Gloomspite Gits are 2.6% of the meta. So there our comparison, Beast of Chaos and Gloomspite Gits. The difference between the two, right, is they're both 2.5% of the meta. For a 3+ win ratio, then Gloomspite Gits are at 0.7 and Beasts of Chaos are 1.4. On a 4+ win ratio, Gits are at 0.3. Like, they just do not get 4 1s. Yeah, whereas Beasts of Chaos are already at 1.7. They're already in danger category compared to Stormcaster at 0.9. But on the 5 win ratio, Gits have just a dash. And Beasts of Chaos have a 4.3. Fascinating stuff. Open to interpretation, but it showcases that there is a little bit of a problem at the top and bottom end and how severe that problem is. Because maybe the win rates don't necessarily show that. Maybe the positive win rate potential don't show that. But this is another good way of showing it. So shout out to Ziggy for doing so because it looks great. I love that. And it shows you that there are some problem armies, significant problems. And that maybe they should have had more done to them in the Battle Scroll update. But we'll see how that ends up going. Okay. So the first event that we're going to look at this week is a team event. Now, these team event results don't go into the stats when we do the stats, but they are worth talking about because it's a great format for playing Warhammer. Team event is one of my favourite formats for Warhammer. The Runax Team Championships, which happens in Brisbane in Queensland every year, is, I think, Australia's largest Age of Sigmar team tournament. They had 28 teams, and those teams consisted of 4 people each. Now, it was won by Preppin' for Sorcon. Preppin' for Sorcon is a team made up of 40k players. Boo. But, try not to boo too much, but they hadn't played Age of Sigmar until this year, so they've done loads of 40k teams, and then they decided to play Age of Sigmar and do Age of Sigmar teams, and then beat everyone else. So, Age of Sigmar players not as good as 40k players? I mean, these guys seem to prove that. I don't know what's happening. Australia gang, can you sort it out, please? Because this is embarrassing for all of us. Right, the team consisted of Nick Wright, Alex Terrison, Paul Gurney, and Nick Terrison. I'm pretty certain... 2 brothers, Nick and Alex. That's great. Now, I know that Alex Terrison took 2 weeks off before the event to paint his army up, which he'd never... he might have used, but it previously wasn't painted. So what does the team format look like, or what does a winning team list look like? Team events also... I've said team a lot there, I'm sorry. Team events also only allow... you to have one version of each army in the list. Normally, it's like you can only also include the war scrolls for one unit in one army. So, like, for instance, while everyone can take chronomantic cogs, in a team format, probably only one player would be able to take chronomantic cogs. So we have one Beast of Chaos list, we have one Ironjawz list, one Maggotkin list, and one Karajan Overlords list. So those are our 4 different factions. The Beast of Chaos list has a Zangor Shaman, a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, a Slaves to Darkness Demon Prince with a Mark of Khorne, which is just outrageous. Yeah. 6 Dragon Ogres, 10 a Ravening Direflock, the Herdstone, and those 6 Zangor Enlightened on Disc of Tzeentch. If you actually track the stats, I actually think that Beast of Chaos are getting better, because I think the Enlightened on Disc of Tzeentch are better now with their update from the Tzeentch book than they were previously. So they're better. So the Beast of Chaos army is better, which is pretty nuts. Then Alex Terrison was running Bloodtooths in Iron Jaws. He had a War Chant, or 2 War Chanters, a Mega Boss on Maw Crusher, and a Weird Knob Shaman with the great big green hand of Gork, obviously. Also, the Mega Boss on Maw Crusher had the Arcane Tome. So we had the Basham Lads spell, which is the 16-inch, weirdly 16-inch aura for +1 to wound for units around him, which is phenomenal, especially when you give out multiple pluses to hit. So the whole army is basically 2s and 2s. Then he's got 2 units of 6 Gore Grunters and 3 units of 3 Gore Grunters, all in a Battle Reg. Then Paul Gurney was running Maggotkin, Droning Guard. He had the Great and Clean one. And that was it, I think. Wow, just a Great and Clean one. 2 units of 10 Plague Bearers, 3 Nurglings, and then 2 units of 5 Blight Kings, and then 3 units of 3 Plague Drones. Wow, that is very much not what we see. The Droning Guard. Normally we see Drowned Men. Normally you see Puskal Blight Lords. That's a fun list. That's very different to what we've normally see. The Great and Clean one is just absolutely fantastic, right? Like, very, very tough to clear off the board. Heal quite well. Quite fighty as well. Really, really good. And then Nick Terrison was running Kharadron Overlords in Barak Zilfin. Kharadron Overlords players. Happy I've learned how to say that word correctly after 4 years. Proud of you. Aether Chemist, Aether Navigator, Arcanaut Admiral, 3 lots of 10 Arcanaut Company, an Ironclad. Oh, it was a Krunspine Incarnate list. They got me in the first half, I'm not going to lie. But it's an Incarnate list. That's what it is. That's what it'll always be. So congratulations prepping for Sorcon. Congratulations to Gabe and everyone else who helped run the Runax Team Championships. Team Championships, super cool, really fun. Love seeing more of that. Great for Australia as well, because I know Australia really want to improve how they did at Worlds last year and getting more team tournaments, more team format events happening in their country will really help like the player base really understand what's happening there. So really fun, really looking forward to it. Hopefully CanCon make it 300, Clint, which is the largest, well, has up until now has been the largest Age of Sigmar event in the world, and I still think it has that title. Will be happening in January the 22nd and 23rd, and so we're looking forward to 250-ish players playing Age of Sigmar at CanCon. Coming up very soon, so lots of people prepping for that. It's going to be really good and really fun to see that the 40k community, which is very alive in Australia. Don't forget, the 40k Australian community are the world team champions of 40k. They played at that event that they do. So congratulations to them and everyone there. I hope it was a lovely time, and I hope you had a great time. Loads of love. The first event this is the second event. The second event we're looking at, after the team event we just looked at, is over in New Zealand. It's called Call to Arms 2022. And this was won by James Struthers. He was the only one to go 4 wins and a draw. No 5-0s at this event. And his draw was round 1, so nice submarining, James. Big love to you. He was running Beast of Chaos, and he was running the All Herd. Okay, he had a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, a Great Bray Shaman, and the Zangor Shaman Beast of Chaos. He had 3 lots of 10 Ungor, 2 units of 6 Dragon Ogres, and 2 units of Zangor Enlightened on discs. He had the Warlord and he had Bounty Hunters. His Zangor Enlightened were Bounty Hunters, and his Dragon Ogres, and one of his Dragon Ogre units, and then the Ungor were Unmatched Conquerors. So congratulations to him. You don't need me to explain this, but just very quickly, 4-up rally on on any unit that you want a 4-up rally on. Extra rend in the game, great summoning for summoning loads of extra points, probably averaging between 300 to 700 points for a Beast of Chaos army over the course of each game to put on the board, so that's really good. Included with the rallies, great. Zangor Enlightened on disc are truly incredible, in my opinion. They're 360 points, they're very competitively priced. I personally think you want to put them like 200, 210. They're wildly good for what they do. They're fast, their output is wicked. They've got great survivability now with the new 4+ save that they got given. Great unit. Oh, he also had a Mindstealer Phalanx, so that would have been using the old rules where you can make units fight last, which is also fantastic as a unit as well. So that's Beast of Chaos. In second place, though, is this legend, Blair Hemming. He was running Ogre Maw Tribes. This would be an old book with Blood Gullet. He had a Butcher. He had Slaughtermaster, and he had a Frostlord on Stonehorn. He had 12 Ogre Gluttons. Let's go. 48 wounds on a 5-up save with very low bravery. 8 Iron Guts and 4 Iron Guts. So he had a Meat Mountain. he had a Frost Order Stonehorn for some big impact hits, 12 Ogre Gluttons for just grabbing objectives. In Bounty Hunters, those Ogre Gluttons, by the way. The Iron Guts also in Bounty Hunters, and the 4 Iron Guts. That is meaty. That's what I'm going to say. Big and powerful. And how did it work? Just charged in and did loads of damage. And then you got Trey Winnecker. So thank you for people in the chat. He was running Fire Slayers, he was running Lofnir, so I think he would have been using loads of Magma Droths, but his list isn't included, so I can't tell you what it was. I'm sorry. But congratulations to everyone in New Zealand. They've got a very competitive, very strong, very healthy Age of Sigmar community. It's great to see another event being played out there. I hope everyone had a great time, and kia ora to all my friends over there. Our next event is in Kent. 32 players battled it out in the Ragnarok AOS GT. We have 2 people on 4 wins and a draw, and still no incarnates in the list, which is great. So Ryan, who flew over from Malta for the event, was running Disciples of Tzeentch, Host Arcanum, and Luke Skelton, who's very local to that event, I think, actually, and runs some events called Pubhammer, was running a Maggotkin of Nurgle list. So let's look at the list, shall we? Ryan, who was the undefeated Tzeentch player at AOS Worlds last year, in my opinion, one of the better to best Tzeentch players in the whole world, was running a Host Arcanum list, and this is all new book. He's running Curseling with the Eye of Tzeentch, the command trait was the Cult Demagogue. This is super important because when you cast a spell on a double, you can't unbind it, and it counts as 2 fate points. Curseling also, when he unbinds a spell, gets to cast a spell. If you cast a spell on the double, then that's more fate points. Just very good, the Curseling for 180 points, in my opinion. Kairos with 3 casts, that's more fate points. Lord of Change with 2 more casts, and those are both giving +1 cast each out in an aura, +2 to cast. So +2 to cast, and then there's going to be Chronomantic Cogs in here as well for reroll casts. And then a Fluxmaster with the Arcane Tome, so to cast 2 spells. He's going to be at the back of the board with a spell portal, and he's going to be casting his spell through a spell portal, which generates more fate points. This list, along with the 2 units of 10 pink horrors, which generate fate points on a 3-up, he's probably generating about 700 points worth of units a game, maybe more. Maybe more. And don't forget, if you get 20 fate points, then you're going to rock out 10 pink horrors, which is going to be 50 wounds. This whole list is actually... Oh, he hasn't got the rerolls. Amazing. This whole list is only 69 wounds, sorry. His endless spells are the Horrorghast, so you can't take Inspiring Presence. The Burning Sigil of Tzeentch, which is phenomenal, and the Umbral Spell Portal, and he's 1975 points. Spell Portal, you're kind of locked in with Tzeentch list in the future. This will be very common. Burning Sigil is just such incredible value for what it does in the game, and will win you games in some cases. The Umbral Spell Portal is incredibly important with the Fluxmaster. Those 2 combined are just going to generate you fate points. And so then your swing vote on what you're going to cast is... this little unit here. If you notice, he didn't have enough points for Horrorghast, for Chronomantic Cogs, which is now 70 points. So Horrorghast in the list as well. But you're pretty much always going to see Spell Portal and Sigil. And then Horrorghast is going to change for Cogs or something else, depending on the list. The Lord of Change is not a triple caster. Fucking can't believe I got baited in the chat by that. No! It's 2 casts! Get out. And then Luke was running Maggotkin and Nurgle. He's got Lord of Afflictions with the command trait Overpowering Stench and also the Split Horn Helm. He's then got a Lord of Plagues as well, which is cool. That's quite neat. Then he's got a unit of 5 Blight Kings, 2 units of 4 Puskul Blight Lords, another unit of 5 Blight Kings, and then a Mindstealer Phalanx in his list as well. So he's got 2 massive units of Puskul Blight Lords that are going to go forward. They're going to be 32 wounds on a 4-up, 5-up, 4-up armor save, 5-up ward save, and then he's got 2 units of Blight Kings to hold objectives as well, which is just another ton of wounds on 4-up wards, and then the Mindstealer Phalanx to make you fight last. So some really cool stuff there. Like Luke obviously switching up, having all Puskul Blight Lords, switching out the Incarnate as well, and just more playing into how the army plays. So super strong, and I expect lists to go. I mean, the Mindstealer Phalanx will change now as a list because it's not as good and probably will get dropped out of the list, but you know, quite an interesting build, and congratulations to both of those 2 players. Our next event's in Sweden at the Realm of Geddon. 20 players battled it out, and they topped it out with Jonas Radomir winning the event, going 5-0. Now, Jonas is a bit of a galaxy brain. He's put all of us on notice with his Hedonites of Slaanesh 5-0 list. He's running Godseekers, and he had Glottos Oscillion. Don't forget, Glottos is a great wizard. He's got that command ability, so when he does damage, he can heal units around him and himself. Then Dexessa was taken, the Talon of Slaanesh. This is the fighty one of the two different talons, or like of those big bird ones. It's got 10 wounds on a 4-up save, 270 points. It's -1 to hit, and it's got an OK combat profile, and then can issue a command once per battle. If it does strike first against a unit, or if it does fight against a unit, it gets +1 to its melee profiles for the rest of the game, and it is cumulative. So that's pretty interesting as a piece. And then Sigvald was 205 points. Sigvald, obviously a fantastic piece, great duelist character, super fighty, really good in combat. 3 times 11 Blissbarb Archers for some long-range shooting, a unit of 5 Slickblade Seekers, and then 6 Fiends. And these 6 Fiends are actually quite an interesting unit. They're 4 wounds on a 5-up save for 175 points for 3, or 350 points for 6. They have 2 profiles, both of which work based off how many wounds the opposing unit has, basically. The Stinger, if it's got, could get up to D6 damage, but there's only 1 attack per Stinger, so 6 from the unit. And there are 4 attacks on the other weapons, and if they roll any 6s to wound, it becomes D3 damage, otherwise it's flat 1 damage. I really don't see where the output comes from this list. I also don't know where the survivability comes from this list. It's a very interesting army. You got 60 shots coming from the Blissbarb Archers, which is pretty cool, or technically 66, or whatever it is. So there's some output there. Sigvald's got some great damage. Glottos is fun in a fight. But yeah, quite interesting. Quite interesting, actually, that this did really well. Our second place list, we went for one, is also Slaanesh, but this was a Conspire Incarnate list with some Blissbarb Archers. And then finally, Mikael Magnusson. Oh, our second place list was being run by Sebastian Hedberg. And then our third place list was Mikael Magnusson with Blades of Khorne, and he was basically pushing Be'lakor and Skarbrand around, using Be'lakor to pin his opponent, stop them using one of their key pieces, and then Skarbrand just sacrificing the whole army so that you can eventually just yeet stuff into the sky. Okay, so our biggest event of the week was, I suppose not our biggest, I guess the team event was way bigger, but a big event of the week. 64 players were playing in the Slambo GT, which was a Texas Masters event. It was actually live streamed on the Weird Knobs Twitch channel if you'd like to go check it out and you go watch some of those games. It was super cool. I tuned in for a little bit. Okay, so in first place was Gavin Greiger, doing great as always, with Seraphon, Thunder Lizard, Croak, Ashloth Bannerbearer, Skink Priest, Engine of the Gods, and then 20 Skinks, 2 lots of 10 Skinks, 5 Saurus Guard, and then the 2 Bastiladons with the Archisotech, Bastiladon with the Solar Engine, and then Horrorghast and Chronomantic Cogs. Don't need me to explain this. It's one of the best lists in the game, played by one of the best players in the game. It's great. Really good. Solid. Excellent work. Great news, though, for our other 5-0, Matt Robbish was running Sylvaneth, and they got 5-0, which is very rare. Normally they do well, but a 5-0 is super rare. He was running Heartwood, and his season was the Burgeoning, and then he had Drycha Hammerdreth, an Arch Revenant. That's it, which is pretty interesting. No Warsong Revenant, no Arch Rev, no Tree Lord Ancient. Then he had 2 lots of 3 Kurnoth Hunters with Great Bows, a unit of Kurnoth Hunters with Great Scythes, a unit of Gossamer Archers, and Revenant Seekers. He had Battle Regiment for a lot of the units, but his Great Scythes were Bounty Hunters, and his Revenant Seekers were Bounty Hunters with Drycha. So 5-0 with Drycha. And I've said this before, I've really thought that lots of Sylvaneth players need to rethink how they're looking at the Sylvaneth book, and as you can see, Matt has done it here as well. Normally you would say, I can't believe that I've seen... Oh, he's got an Arch Revenant, sorry, so he does have the Arch Rev, which I just literally said he didn't. He had Drycha and an Arch Rev with Warsinger and Seed of Rebirth. This is a great list. The Kurnoth Hunters are really solid. He's been able to get himself... Normally you see 6, and he's got... Sorry, normally you see 6 or 12, and he's got 12 in here, but he's also got that additional unit of Revenant Seekers, so he can heal into the Kurnoth Scythes. Really good, really cool. And Warsing is also something we've seen previously as well. This is where you get to move units up the board an additional 3 inches. And as you can see, he hasn't taken the teleport spell, or the endless spell, so the Spike Swarm Hive. And instead he's just moving up the board using the Gossamids, I think, to screen because they've got that 2-up move away, and then charge in with these other units. Really cool list. Shout out to him for doing so good. Looking at the 4-1 category at Slambo, it got spicy. That's all I'm going to say. It got spicy. Tom Guan was running a Cities of Sigmar Halahart list, and instead of taking the Incarnate, he took Bundo Whalebiter. So the things that you could do previously, where you would make it so that when they take damage, you put mortal wounds back via a spell called Warding Brand, works on Bundo, the original Warding Brand target. In addition, he took a unit of 4 Stormdrake Guard, which is an incredibly useful unit. And he had some Flagellants as his battle line for the battle tactic, a Battle Mage, a Lord Castellan, and a Celestial Hurricane for the +1 to hit. Yeah, the OG Bundo is what he took. Christopher Schelling was running Marathian the Bow Snakes and doing really well with it, 4-1. Zach Kennedy was running Fire Slayers in Lofnir. He had an Auric Runefather on Magmadroth, Rune Master Battlesmith, then 15 Hearthguard Berserker and a Runeson on Magmadroth, and another 15 Hearthguard Berserkers. So 30 in total. Then we had Ryan Rutherford with 3 Gatebreaker Gargants and a Kronspan Incarnate in a Kronspan Incarnate list. Benjamin Richardson was running Lumineth Realm Lords, and he was running Sire. And I'm sure this would have been Old Book, in which case he was running 50 Wardens and 40 Sentinels and some characters in his list. Stephen De La Garza was running his Hosts of Sinesh list, and he was running a Bladebringer, Sigvald, and the Contorted Epitome. 3 units of 3 Blissbarb Archers, 2 units of 10 Simbramesh Twin Souls, 2 Allied Fumaroid Crushers, Allied Fumaroid Crushers, and 2 units of 5 Centaur, and the Geminids of Ulguish. So the Blissbarb Archers do the shooting, as we talked about before, and Sigvald does all the fighting as he does. The Bladebringer is actually genuinely a really fighty unit as well, can do lots of damage. And the Contorted Epitome is a great caster, because of the reroll once they hit spell, but also has got the flaming weapon ability spell, which you can put on one of their fighting weapons, and they've got a great fighting weapon. So that's really effective as well. The Twin Souls are interesting, as are the Centaur with the Fumaroid Crushers, because the Fumaroid Crushers can blow up a terrain piece and do mortal wounds to unit around it. And don't forget, with Sinesh army, if you do damage but don't kill it, you generate loads of depravity. So he was using the Fumaroid Crushers to do loads of mortal wounds into his own army, as well as eventually maybe the opposing army, and then get lots of depravity for lots of summoning. That's how the list works. So loads of depravity for this army to summon, and the Blissbarb Archers can split shots and do even more damage. Very interesting. But that's not even the most interesting list. As if Stephen De La Garza could be outdone for interesting and cool lists, Brian Lofton rocked up with his Ogre Moor Tribes Underguts army. That's right, Underguts. He has a Butcher. He has the Hrothron, the Hunter. 1 Tyrant and Black Powder's Buccaneers. Then he has 8 Lead Belchers, 2 times 4 Lead Belchers, and 4 Iron Blasters. Now, these are old school Iron Blasters, not the current new Iron Blasters. 2 lots of 20 Noblars and the Man Trappers. I assume the Noblars were screens to stop him being charged. The Iron Blasters do 1 shot that hits on a 4 at range, but in Underguts it can do 2 shots with a command ability. And then the Lead Belchers get extra shots if they don't move, D6 shots I think, in Underguts, and can fight quite well. So, I mean, incredible stuff. Brian, you're my hero. I've wanted someone to do that Underguts list, and you did it, so well done. And then Andrew Fournier was running a Seraphon Thunder Lizard list with some stuff in. And congratulations to him. It looked cool. So yeah, like absolutely great stuff from Slambo GT. Wicked. Love that. Let's go. Okay, so what do we think of the event results this week? This is kind of interesting because we have a lot of events where lists were submitted before the new Battle Scroll update, so we're not necessarily getting all of the info there, while also getting some new Battle Scroll results as well. Yeah, I mean, it seems like Sinesh are doing quite well this week, which is weird. And all the lists are pretty different, with some Blissbarb Archers featuring pretty heavily in those lists as well. Other than that, there's some usual names and some usual faces, which is kind of interesting. I think I honestly am kind of okay with this GHB ending in January at this point. I think there's still some play in the game. I think the armies that have just come out are going to affect that game even more so. So I'm looking forward to that. And seeing how they play. But new battle scroll changes aren't really going to start to be noticeable for the next 2 months, and December is normally where events kind of start to implode because there's no event results, obviously, because everyone's celebrating some special holidays or something. So yeah, there's only about 6 weeks, 8 weeks left of this meta, and I don't think Battle Scroll's necessarily going to see the impact, or we're not going to necessarily be able to track it. But some interesting results definitely from this week. Sinesh Stonks, not really sure about that, but pretty wild. Yeah, and 2 new battle tomes about to hit as well, with new Lumineth still hitting, like from there. Stats, we talked about those as well. Those are interesting. Bigger stats dive later on in the week. And there we go. Yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed the show. Thanks for supporting it. Please do listen to, if you listen to it on the podcast, please do stay hydrated. Thanks to everyone on the Patreon for supporting the show. And please do like, comment, and subscribe and all that other stuff. Thanks for listening.